This podcast is brought to you by Emperor.top, the stories of top companies. Disclaimer, this AI-generated content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. Bumble. From heartbreak to IPO. The Whitney Wolfe Herd story.
About 4 hours after she became the youngest woman ever to take a company public, 2 hours after Bumble's soaring stock price made her a billionaire, Whitney Wolfe Herd sat on her pink velvet couch in her canary-colored office at Bumble's Austin headquarters and blinked back tears. Her 18-month-old son had been perched on her hip as she rang the NASDAQ bell from afar. This was February 2021, still deep pandemic, still remote everything. She then became the world's youngest female billionaire. She became the youngest woman to lead an initial public offering in the United States at age 31. Here she was, one of the top female CEOs in tech, a founder who had created one of the largest dating apps in the world out of the ashes of her own humiliation. Shares of Bumble closed up 63.5% in their initial public offering Thursday on the NASDAQ. The company's stock began trading up nearly 77% at $76 per share. It priced the shares at $43 apiece, above its target range of $37 to $39, and sold 50 million shares. The company closed trading with a market cap of $7.62 billion. The $1.37 billion in foregone cash ranks as the 8th of all time. Bumble closed trading on February 11th at a market cap of $7.62 billion. The market loved her. Wall Street loved her story. Feminism meets fintech had arrived. Fast forward to today, December 2025, and the story has taken a darker turn. While Bumble shares rose 19% on the news, overall shares of the dating app company have plunged since their debut on the public markets in 2021. The dating app's market value has dropped from $7.62 billion in 2021 to about $538 million as of Wednesday's close. That represents a destruction of more than 93% of shareholder value. A decline that makes even the most brutal tech wrecks of the post-pandemic era look mild by comparison. What happened? How did a company built on such a compelling founder narrative, such obvious product-market fit, such an emotionally resonant mission, lose almost everything? And can Whitney Wolfe Herd, who returned as CEO in March 2025, stage a comeback for the ages? This is a story about founder redemption arcs, twice over as we'll see, the brutal economics of dating apps, brand as moat, the private equity playbook in its most clinical form, and the existential challenge of sustaining network effects when your users are literally trying to delete your app. Oh, and there's a movie! Swiped is a 2025 American biographical film starring Lily James as Whitney Wolfe Herd, founder and CEO of the dating app Bumble. The film also stars Dan Stevens, Myha'la, and Jackson White. It is directed by Rachel Lee Goldenberg and distributed by Hulu. The story has now reached Hollywood, a sure sign that either you've made it or you've become a cautionary tale. Perhaps both.
A Utah girl with bigger dreams. Wolfe Herd was born as Whitney Wolfe in Salt Lake City, Utah, to Kelly Wolfe and Michael Wolfe. Her father is Jewish and her mother is Catholic. Wolfe attended Judge Memorial Catholic High School. For college, she attended Southern Methodist University, where she majored in international studies and was a member of the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority. There's no Stanford dropout mythology here, no garage startup origin story, no precocious coding prodigy arc. Wolfe Herd herself has been refreshingly candid about her unconventional path. I didn't go to business school to take a formal job at a formal company, nor did I code a brand new product in my dorm room. I don't come from the kind of background that would ever lead me, from a historical standpoint, to the career I'm in. Credentials don't always define who someone is. She wanted to go into marketing and advertising, but was denied for that course at her university. Global studies became the backup. It's a detail worth noting. The woman who would later become perhaps the most successful dating app marketer of her generation was rejected from formal marketing education. The do-gooder phase. What Wolfe Herd did have, from an early age, was a knack for cause marketing and an instinct for brand building around emotional narratives. While studying international studies at Southern Methodist University, she launched her first venture, the Help Us Project, selling bamboo tote bags to benefit areas affected by the BP oil spill. This early success, which garnered attention from celebrities like Rachel Zoe and Nicole Richie, foreshadowed her future marketing genius. She also collaborated with Often Comp to launch a clothing line named Tender Heart, which aimed to raise awareness about human trafficking and promote fair trade practices. Following graduation, Wolfe Herd journeyed to Southeast Asia, volunteering at orphanages. She reflected on traditional measures of success like ROI and found them exceptionally dull. This wasn't just youthful idealism. It was early evidence of her ability to craft emotional narratives that resonated, to build brands around values rather than features. She would deploy this skill to devastating effect in the years to come. The LA dinner that changed everything. I serendipitously ended up at a dinner in Los Angeles and met a couple of individuals who were working out of an incubator under the wings of Match. Those individuals were building something that would soon explode across college campuses and transform how an entire generation dated. The year was 2012. The app was not yet called Tinder, and Whitney Wolfe was about to become one of its most important architects, though that title, and the recognition that came with it, would become the subject of lawsuits, heartbreak, and years of bitter dispute. When I completed my degree, I had no intention of building a dating app. I went to Southeast Asia, and whilst I was there, I had this aha moment. If you don't have access to technology, you have nothing. That's when I decided to go work in the tech space. She joined what was then called Matchbox, a prototype app within IAC-funded startup incubator Hatch Labs. Her official title was Vice President of Marketing. Her actual role was much broader and much more contested.
Building Matchbox into Tinder. In 2012, at just 22 years old, she co-founded Tinder and served as its vice president of marketing. Her innovative campus marketing strategies helped turn Tinder from a startup into a cultural phenomenon. The word co-founder would later become legally and emotionally radioactive, but in those early days, the distinctions didn't seem to matter. Wolfe was involved in Tinder from its earliest days as a prototype app within Hatch Labs. According to her later lawsuit, she played a pivotal role in Tinder's success, including choosing its name and focusing early marketing on students in U.S. colleges. The campus marketing strategy was, in hindsight, a masterclass in growth hacking for a two-sided marketplace. Whitney brings this energy and passion to this pitch, explains one account of the film Swiped, and then gets herself in trouble and has to run around. The real Whitney has spoken about running all over the place, telling people that other people signed up to create the fury around it. It was guerrilla marketing for the social mobile era. Wolfe would show up at college campuses, pitch sororities on the app, often her own Kappa Kappa Gamma sisters first, then immediately pivot to fraternities with the pitch that all these women were now on the app. The chicken and egg problem of every marketplace was solved through sheer hustle and strategic sequencing. As many as 46% of online daters say they've used Tinder, according to a 2023 Pew Research Center report. Match Group, the company that owns Tinder, reported in its most recent earnings report that paying users fell by 8% last year to just below 10 million. But in those early years, growth was exponential. By April 2014, Tinder was reported to have 10 million daily active users. The relationship, the culture, the collapse. Then things got complicated in the way that things at startup companies with young co-founders in close quarters often do. Whitney Wolfe, 24, was awarded an undisclosed amount of money after claiming she was harassed and forced out of the company when her romantic relationship with Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder Justin Mateen, 28, soured. Wolfe and Mateen's relationship began in February 2013, when he was her direct supervisor. From the very beginning, Tinder appears to have fostered a company culture that left employees in incredibly close, personal relationships. Rather than maturing as the company grew, the line between professional and personal apparently became increasingly thin. What followed was a #Me Too story before #Me Too existed. Wolfe, Tinder's former vice president of marketing, had filed a lawsuit June 30th accusing company co-founder and chief marketing officer Justin Mateen, with whom she had a brief romantic relationship, of sending her a barrage of horrendously sexist, racist, and otherwise inappropriate comments, emails, and text messages. She also alleged that Mateen and Tinder CEO Sean Rad removed her title as co-founder because of her gender. The lawsuit alleged that Rad and Mateen intentionally downplayed her role in Tinder's founding because of her gender. According to Mateen, as quoted in court filings, Facebook and Snapchat don't have girl founders. It just makes it look like Tinder was some accident. According to Mateen, a girl founder, who at the time was 24, devalued the company. In September 2014, she received just over $1 million from settling a lawsuit against the company for sexual discrimination and sexual harassment after dating a Tinder co-founder who became verbally controlling and abusive. The case resulted in a settlement of $1 million plus stock, but prohibited Wolfe from speaking about her experiences with the company. In the wake of her lawsuit, Wolfe endured a torrent of online harassment. For some, that would be enough to make them turn their back on the tech world entirely. Wolfe saw it as a call to make things better.
The original vision, a complement network. In the immediate aftermath of the Tinder settlement, Wolfe was emotionally devastated and professionally adrift. She originally set out to create a social networking site outside the dating space entirely, a women-only social network under the name Mercy, where users could give one another compliments. No compliments on physicality, she told Forbes. Compliments about who they are. Wolfe Herd started sketching out a female-only social network centered around compliments, which was to be called Mercy. Badoo founder Andre Andreev encouraged her to start a new dating app and brought her on as a partner in his company, Magic Lab, later renamed Bumble Inc. Enter Andre Andreev. The Russian-born British tech entrepreneur Andre Andreev had built Badoo into one of the world's largest dating platforms. Massive in Europe and Latin America, largely unknown in the United States. In the United States, Tinder has ruled the roost since its inception, but in Europe and South America, Badoo has been the frontrunner. Created by Russian entrepreneur Andre Andreev, Badoo has had many lives, including as a social games and quiz app in Facebook Games' heyday in the early 2010s. Badoo is the most downloaded dating app in the world, with over 400 million registered users, but it has not been able to make a mark in the US. In 2014, Andreev partnered with Tinder co-founder Whitney Wolfe Herd, who left the company after tensions with executives to found Bumble. Where Badoo failed, Bumble succeeded in drawing North American users away from Tinder. Andreev reached out to Wolfe Herd after she left Tinder and suggested creating a dating app with a similar vision to her Compliments network, but applied to dating. The resulting deal structure was highly unusual and would have profound implications for Bumble's governance and eventual path to independence. Andreev retained 79% ownership in the company for an investment of $10 million, along with additional investments, consulting services, and use of Badoo's infrastructure. Wolfe Herd served as CEO and received a 20% ownership stake. The unusual corporate arrangement meant Whitney didn't actually control her own company in the early years, but it also meant she had access to capital, engineering talent, and user acquisition firepower that most founders could only dream of. Badoo's London engineering team would power Bumble's infrastructure. Andreev's capital would fund the launch and initial growth. The move to Austin and the core innovation. She planned to name the app Moxie, but this name was already taken. In December 2014, Wolfe Herd moved to Austin, Texas. She brought along her former colleagues from Tinder to found what would become known as Bumble. At Tinder, I'd been a big part of engineering network effect, and I knew how to do it and understood how to speak to a consumer and build an authentic brand. That said, I had the perfect partner because Andre brought everything to the table that I didn't have. A robust infrastructure, 12 years of user data points, and the incredible technology he had spent so many years building. The core innovation emerged from Wolfe Herd's own experience and the broader cultural moment. When I founded Bumble, it was because I saw a problem I wanted to help solve. It was 2014, but so many of the smart, wonderful women in my life were still waiting around for men to ask them out, to take their numbers, or to start up a conversation on a dating app. For all the advances women had been making in workplaces and corridors of power, the gender dynamics of dating and romance still seemed so outdated. I thought, what if I could flip that on its head? What if women made the first move? The dating app, which launched in December 2014, allowed women seeking heterosexual pairings to make the first move. By requiring them to message their potential suitors first, Bumble sought to cut down on the possibility of unsolicited, inappropriate messages. It was elegant, it was different, and it was deeply personal. A founder who had experienced harassment creating a platform designed to prevent it. A woman stripped of her co-founder title, building a company explicitly centered on women's empowerment. The narrative wrote itself.
Early traction and the power of brand. By December 2015, Bumble reached over 15 million conversations and 80 million matches. Astonishing numbers for a one-year-old dating app. But what set Bumble apart wasn't just the women make the first move mechanic. It was the relentless focus on brand. Wolfe Herd saw Bumble less as a dating app, a social platform, or a tech company than as a brand. It was the word that she used the most when talking about Bumble. Whitney was a big believer that branding is everything, said Alex Williamson, Wolfe Herd's sorority sister and best friend, and Bumble's former chief brand officer. The brand positioning was masterful. Bumble's brand is deeply embedded in what critics called the empowerment industrial complex. More youthful than Lean In, less litigious than Time's Up, Bumble represented a type of friendly Sadie Hawkins feminism that is more about feeling powerful than wielding power. The distinctive yellow color scheme became instantly recognizable. The messaging was relentlessly positive. Bumble's branding was studied in marketing and MBA classes because it was so effective, strategic, and innovative. The brand became a competitive moat. Tinder might have more users, but Bumble had a clearer identity. Platform expansion, BFF, and Biz. The app proved a success, enough that Wolfe was able to parlay Bumble not just into international markets, but also into spaces beyond dating. Bumble added Bumble BFF, which allows people to seek out platonic friendships, and Bumble Biz for those seeking professional connections. This wasn't just feature creep. It was a strategic bet that the women make the first move brand and mechanic could translate beyond romance. The expansion into friendships and professional networking anticipated a world where Bumble might be more than a dating app, a full-spectrum platform for human connection. Zero tolerance for harassment became a core brand pillar. Bumble implemented strict policies to ensure a safe and respectful community. Wolfe Herd also advocated for stricter laws and regulations online, championing the passage of Texas House Bill 2789, which made the sending of unsolicited, explicit images a punishable offense. The numbers tell the story. As of 2020, Bumble had over 100 million users worldwide. The company had grown from 0 to 9 figures in users in 6 years, all while remaining profitable. A rare feat in the venture-funded startup world. Whitney Wolfe Herd was named Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2017 and 2018. Match Group, Tinder's parent company, reportedly offered to acquire Bumble for $450 million, and possibly as much as $1 billion or more. The offer was rejected. Baidu and Wolfe Herd believed Bumble was worth much more. So,
The Forbes expose and Andreev's exit. The path to a Bumble IPO seemed clear, until a bombshell Forbes investigation threatened to blow up the entire company. The irony was devastating. The company, built on the premise of protecting women from harassment, was majority owned by a man whose company allegedly fostered exactly the kind of toxic male culture Bumble was supposed to combat. Wolfe Herd initially defended Andreev to Forbes, stating, "He's become my family and one of my best friends." One day after the article's publication, she issued a statement saying that she was saddened and sickened to hear that anyone of any gender would ever be made to feel marginalized or mistreated in any capacity at their workplace. While a bold IPO was an interesting prospect, things took a turn for the worse that summer when the expose in Forbes painted a bleak picture of misogyny and sleaze at the parent company, headed by an eccentric and oblique leader. Not the image that Bumble wanted to project, and definitely not the image that would have read well on Wall Street. The Blackstone solution. The solution arrived in the form of Blackstone, one of the world's largest private equity firms. Blackstone announced Friday that it is buying a majority stake in Magic Lab, which owns dating apps including Bumble and Badoo, from Russian billionaire founder Andrei Andreev. As part of the deal, which valued Magic Lab at $3 billion, Andreev is selling his stake and stepping down from the business. Wolfe Herd's stake was about 19%. The deal valued Bumble and the wider business, which was profitable, at $3 billion. Blackstone also made an investment in the company as part of the deal. As part of the acquisition by Blackstone, Bumble founder and CEO Whitney Wolfe Herd was named CEO of Magic Lab. Andreev relinquished his shares of both Bumble and Badoo, while Wolfe Herd was appointed the new CEO of Magic Lab, with a 19% ownership of the company. The PE playbook begins. But while Bumble has been growing at a healthy clip, in addition to being profitable, Magic Lab had revenue growth of 40% annually. The transaction caps off a tumultuous time at the corporate level for the company. Then came the paydays for Blackstone. It extracted a special dividend of $300 million from the company in typical private equity fashion. During the IPO in February 2021, Blackstone sold a chunk of its shares for $2 billion, leaving it with 98.23 million shares. In September 2021, in a secondary share offering, Blackstone sold another 20.7 million shares for about $1 billion, bringing its haul to $3.3 billion from the sale of shares and the dividends.
Going public. During a pandemic. Like the recent Airbnb IPO, you'd think the depths of a pandemic would be exactly the wrong time for a company like Bumble to go public. Not only are people wary of meeting with strangers outside of their bubble, but also the places where dating happens are closed or restricted. Yet it's precisely the virtual reality of dating apps, that ability to meet and interact with strangers without leaving your couch, that may have strengthened demand. Austin, Texas, February 10th, 2021. Globe Newswire. Bumble Inc. announced today the pricing of its initial public offering of 50 million shares of its Class A common stock at a price to the public of $43 per share. Bumble has granted the underwriters a 30-day option to purchase up to an additional 7,500,000 shares of Class A common stock. The shares are expected to begin trading on the Nasdaq Global Select Market on February 11th, 2021 under the symbol BMBL. This afternoon, Bumble priced its IPO at $43 per share ahead of its raised IPO range of $37 to $39 per share. Bumble filed to go public in mid-January and offered up its first price range on February 2nd. That range, $28 to $30 per share, wound up coming up short. Bumble raised its price range to $37 to $39 per share earlier this week. Before counting a possible underwriter's option, Bumble raised $2.15 billion by selling 50 million shares in its public offering. The first-day pop and the historic moment. Dating app Bumble, BMBL, shares closed at $70.31 or 63% higher than their IPO price of $43 each. The stock opened at $76 during their public debut and soared more than 80% during the first minutes of trading. Bumble had sold 50 million shares, raising $2.15 billion. At age 31, Wolfe Herd is the youngest female CEO to take a large U.S. company public. Wolfe Herd told Yahoo Finance Live, the strong market response likely reflects the company's ambitions to be more than a dating app. The world has recognized the power of online dating, and the world is about to recognize the power of finding community and connections around whatever you're looking for on the internet. We have been meticulous about building a brand that protects women and engineers accountability and kindness into the internet. The financials at IPO. Bumble said in its S-1 filing that it generated $376.6 million of revenue in the first 9 months of 2020, with a net loss of $84.1 million. In that same time period in 2019, it brought in revenue of $362.6 million and reported a net profit of $68.6 million. The shift from profit to loss was attributed to IPO-related expenses and investments in growth. With more than 40 million active users worldwide, Bumble had proven there was room for at least 2 public dating companies. The public offering of Bumble shares comes after a sustained period when one company, Match, was presumed to be the only possible public dating company. However, the smaller Bumble has proven that there is room for at least one more.
The post-IPO reality. The IPO was the apex. What followed was a slow-motion collapse that destroyed more than 90% of shareholder value. Understanding why requires examining both the structural challenges facing the dating app industry and the company-specific execution missteps. Tinder's next closest competitor, Bumble, lost relative market share over the past year amid a CEO change and declining company's stock value. The problems were multifaceted. The core business challenge: dating apps have a fundamental problem that other consumer internet businesses don't share. Your most successful users are the ones trying to delete you. When Bumble works perfectly, couples form and churn off the platform. Bumble acknowledged its competition, but said in its prospectus that online dating is not a winner-take-all market. The company said most people have an average of 2 different dating apps on their phones. Gen Z swipe fatigue. A 2024 Forbes Health survey found that 79% of Gen Z users experience some degree of fatigue with dating apps like Hinge, Tinder, and Bumble. They're investing tons of time without finding genuine connections. Gen Z is moving away from dating apps because swiping often feels transactional, laborious, and scripted, dating coach Ray Weiss told Newsweek. Despite the growing trend of dating apps being where people go to find partners in the U.S., Gen Z seems to be opting out. According to a 2023 Statista survey, daters in the U.S. between the ages of 30 and 49, who are mostly millennial, make up 61% of dating app users, whereas Gen Z comes in at only 26%. This may be in part due to unique challenges Gen Z faces on the apps. Competition from Hinge. And yet, against all odds, Hinge is holding on tight. Gen Z accounts for 56% of its user base, and the app reported a 17% increase in paying users. Strong prompts and a focus on intentional dating seem to be working. The Premium Plus failure. The company launched a Premium Plus subscription tier in December 2022 that did not have a clear enough market fit at launch. According to management, the truth began to emerge on February 27, 2024, when Bumble issued a press release, reporting disappointing fourth quarter fiscal 2023 results despite the recent launch of the Premium Plus subscription tier in December 2022. During the subsequent earnings call, management announced that the Premium Plus tier would be revamped as part of the planned Bumble app relaunch, as it did not have a clear enough market fit at launch. The CEO transition. She will be succeeded by Lydiane Jones, CEO of Salesforce's cloud-based messaging platform Slack, on January 2, 2024, according to a company release Monday. Shares of Bumble closed down more than 4% Monday and have fallen 38% year-to-date. Whitney Wolfe Herd, founder and CEO of the dating app Bumble, is stepping down from her role at the helm of the company early next year. Bumble requires women to make the first move with dating prospects, and Wolfe Herd founded the company in 2014 as a way to create an empowering and safe online dating space. It's a monumental moment, one that has taken a great deal of time, consideration, and care for me to pass the baton to a leader and a woman I deeply respect, Wolfe Herd said in a release. She transitioned to a new role as executive chair when Jones took over as CEO. In her short time as CEO, she led an overhaul of the app, which changed how men and women initiate conversations on the app. It was built on the premise of women making the opening move. The overhaul didn't seem to work as intended. The company's stock cratered further in August after quarterly revenue and guidance for Q3 of 2024 came in below estimates. Shares were down by around 54% from the time Bumble allowed men to message first to the end of 2024. The decision to relax the women make the first move mechanic was controversial. It diluted the core brand positioning that had differentiated Bumble from every other dating app. For a company whose moat was supposed to be its brand, this felt like unilateral disarmament. The layoffs. Bumble, on Tuesday, announced plans to lay off about 350 employees as part of a restructuring plan. A company spokesperson said the cuts amount to about 30% of Bumble's workforce. The February 2024 layoffs were brutal. 350 employees, roughly 30% of the company. The cuts will help centralize engineering and product teams in fewer locations and accelerate decision-making so the company can prioritize artificial intelligence and safety features, Chief Executive Officer Lydiane Jones said on a call with analysts. Then came a second round. These new cuts come over a year after Bumble announced a round of layoffs in February 2024, when the company eliminated nearly 350 employees, or a third, 30% of its workforce. Back then, Bumble had a lackluster fourth quarter and a slowdown in user spending. Bumble Inc. disclosed Wednesday that it will cut its workforce by 30%. The move comes as the dating app company seeks to realign its operating structure to optimize execution on its strategic priorities, Bumble said in a Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) filing. Approximately 240 people will lose their jobs in the planned layoffs. 2 rounds of 30% workforce reductions within 18 months is not restructuring. It's a company in crisis mode. The securities litigation. Adding insult to injury, Rosen Law Firm, a global investor rights law firm, announces the filing of a class action lawsuit on behalf of purchasers of securities of Bumble Inc., NASDAQ BMBL between November 7, 2023 and August 7, 2024, both dates inclusive, the class period. A class action lawsuit has already been filed. If you wish to serve as lead plaintiff, you must move the court no later than November 25, 2024. The Bumble class action also alleges that on August 7, 2024, Bumble announced mixed second quarter 2024 results, disclosing that the app relaunch was not going to plan and that Bumble would need to reset its outlook and rebalance Bumble subscription tiers, including a pause in the revamp of the poorly received Premium Plus tier. Bumble also cut its fiscal year guidance for a second time, according to the complaint. On this news, Bumble's stock price declined more than 29%, according to the Bumble class action lawsuit.
The prodigal founder returns. A year after assuming the role and initiating a slew of controversial changes, Lidionne Jones is out as CEO of Bumble Inc., the company announced Friday. Founder and executive chair Whitney Wolfe Herd will return to the role starting in mid-March. I am deeply grateful for the transformative work Lidionne has led during such a pivotal time for Bumble, and her leadership has been instrumental in building a strong foundation for our future. Jones is resigning for personal reasons, the company said, and will officially leave in March. In her short time as CEO, she led an overhaul of the app, which changed how men and women initiate conversations on the app. It was built on the premise of women making the opening move. It's a return to form for Wolfe Herd, who founded the dating app company at age 24 and led it for 9 years. Whitney Wolfe Herd returned as CEO in mid-March 2025. In addition to the CEO shakeup, Anu Subramanian, the company's chief financial officer, and Selby Drummond, chief marketing officer, previously announced plans to leave in early 2025. The company hired a new CEO in early 2024 who resigned in early 2025. Bumble cut about 30% of its employees in 2024 and lost its chief financial officer, chief business officer, and chief technology officer in 2025, according to its latest annual report. The company is shutting down Fruits, a Gen Z-focused dating app it acquired in 2022, and Official, an app it acquired in 2023. Bumble's stock reached an all-time low in 2025, falling from around $75 per share at its 2021 IPO to less than $5 per share in March 2025. The financial picture today. Full year 2024. Operational and financial highlights. Revenue increased 1.9% to $1,071.6 million compared to $1,051.8 million. This includes an unfavorable impact of $7.3 million from foreign currency movements year over year. Bumble app revenue increased 2.5% to $866.3 million compared to $844.8 million. This includes an unfavorable impact of $5.6 million from foreign currency movements year over year. Badoo app and other revenue decreased 0.8% to $205.4 million, compared to $207.1 million. Total paying users increased 11.5% to 4.1 million, compared to 3.7 million. Total ARPPU decreased to $21.23, compared to $23.03. Operating loss was $700.5 million, or 65.4% of revenue, which includes $892.2 million of non-cash impairment charges, compared to operating earnings of $53.4 million, or 5.1% of revenue. Adjusted EBITDA was $304.1 million, or 28.4% of revenue, compared to $275.6 million, or 26.2% of revenue. The $892.2 million impairment charge tells you everything about how management now views the assets it acquired and the goodwill it carried on its books. When you write down nearly $1 billion, you're admitting that the future you expected when you made those investments is not coming. As of December 31st, 2024, total cash and cash equivalents were $204.3 million, and total debt was $617.1 million. Bumble, NASDAQ BMBL, reported challenging Q2 2025 results with total revenue declining 7.6% to $248.2 million. The company's flagship Bumble app revenue decreased 7.6% to $201.4 million, while Badoo app revenue fell 7.5% to $46.8 million. The AI bet. Bumble is increasing its investments in AI and branching out with new features to stay relevant amid a generational shift in dating behavior among younger users. During Goldman Sachs' annual technology conference on Monday, Bumble CEO Lydiane Jones unveiled more details about the app's upcoming AI capabilities, including a photo selection tool as well as features to help with conversations and profile creation. Jones previously teased the features in Bumble's latest earnings presentation. During a call with investors, she said, "We will also introduce new AI-driven features, including an AI-assisted photo picker to ease the profile creation process and conversation support that will help our customers gain confidence to be their best selves. We have an ambitious view of how AI will enhance the value we deliver to our customers in each step of the dating journey." Like any platform, Bumble is now navigating itself in a world of AI, which means rethinking how humans will interact with each other in an increasing age of chatbots. Wolfe Herd told Bloomberg Technology Summit in San Francisco this week it could streamline the matching process. If you want to get really out there is a world where your AI dating concierge could go and date for you with other dating concierge, she told host Emily Chang. Truly. And then you don't have to talk to 600 people. It will scan all of San Francisco for you and say, these are the 3 people you really ought to meet. Whether AI concierges dating each other is the future of romance, or a dystopian nightmare remains to be seen. What's clear is that Bumble is betting that AI can solve some of the swipe fatigue problems driving users away from dating apps generally.
Art imitates business. Whitney Wolfe Herd rises from recent graduate to pioneering entrepreneur, overcoming sexism and industry resistance as she creates Bumble, a dating app that reimagines how people connect. Inspired by the provocative real-life story of the visionary founder of online dating platform Bumble, Swiped introduces recent college grad Whitney Wolfe, played by Lily James, as she uses extraordinary grit and ingenuity to break into the male-dominated tech industry and launch an innovative, globally lauded dating app, actually, paving the way to becoming the youngest female self-made billionaire. The fact that Whitney Wolfe Herd's story has become a Hollywood film is itself significant. Although the Bumble founder and CEO hasn't seen the film and is open to Lily James's portrayal of her, now available to stream after its TIFF premiere this month, she admitted she asked her lawyer to shut it down 2 years ago. "So, I can't make it through the whole trailer. It's too weird for me," she told CNBC. "No, I'm not involved in it. Frankly, I was informed about this movie after it was already off to the races. I think they had already written the script and done all these things." The closing credits say, Whitney Wolfe Herd did not participate in the making of this film. She remains under a non-disclosure agreement. The NDA from the Tinder settlement continues to constrain her public narrative, a detail that speaks to how the trauma of her departure from Tinder echoes through her career to this day.
The competitive battlefield. Today, dating apps are a widespread way for people to meet. With over 364 million users worldwide, the dating app business is substantial, generating $6.18 billion in 2024. A single company, Match Group, is the most significant player in the industry, owning top dating apps like Tinder and Hinge, as well as other apps that have contributed significantly to its revenue, bringing in $3.5 billion. Tinder. As a subsidiary of Match Group, Tinder is the undisputed market leader, holding a 31.4% market share and generating $1.94 billion in 2024. Bumble, operating under Bumble Inc., This app empowers women to make the first move and holds a strong second place with a 14.0% market share. Hinge, also owned by Match Group, Hinge has grown quickly. Its earnings reached $550 million in 2024, giving it an 8.9% market share. Grindr. As a publicly traded company, Grindr caters to the LGBTQ+ community and holds a 5.6% market share, earning $345 million in revenue. The dating app industry is not a winner-take-all market. Most users have multiple apps installed, but it does exhibit strong network effects within specific demographics and use cases. Tinder dominates casual dating. Hinge is winning serious dating. Bumble positioned itself somewhere in between. The Gen Z problem. With dating apps becoming less and less popular, 79% of Gen Z said they felt dating app burnout, according to a Forbes Health survey. Single people are trying to meet people in real life again. According to mobile app analytics company AppsFlyer, 65% of dating apps downloaded in 2024 were deleted within a month. This year, that number has climbed to 69%, AppsFlyer told Fast Company. A nationwide Kinsey Institute and datingadvice.com survey found that most Gen Zers would rather meet someone offline, with 90.24% of respondents saying they prefer social gatherings, bookstores, classes, and clubs. This is an existential threat to the entire dating app industry, not just Bumble. But Bumble, whose brand was built on appealing to millennial women, may be particularly vulnerable to the generational shift.
Porter's 5 Forces Analysis. Threat of new entrants, moderate high. Dating apps have relatively low barriers to entry from a technical standpoint, but building network effects and brand recognition is difficult. New entrants like Field have found success by targeting underserved niches. The Czech company Flintcast has gained traction with apps like Evermatch, Sweetmeat, Maybe You, and iHappy. Bargaining power of suppliers. Layoffs. Bumble's primary suppliers are the app stores, Apple and Google, which take a 15 to 30% cut of in-app purchases. This is an industry-wide headwind, but not unique to Bumble. Bargaining power of buyers. High. Users have enormous power because switching costs are near zero. Most users have multiple dating apps installed and can easily shift usage between them based on perceived value or social trends. Threat of substitutes. High. This is perhaps the most significant force working against Bumble. Substitutes include not just other dating apps, but social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, in-person venues, matchmaking services, and the growing cultural trend toward touching grass and meeting people offline. Gen Zers view direct messages and comments as feeling more authentic and natural than the swipes on dating apps. Competitive rivalry. High. The dating app space is intensely competitive, with Match Group's portfolio of brands, independent players like Grindr, and new entrants constantly fighting for user attention. Hamilton Helmer's 7 Powers Framework. 1. Scale economies limited. While there are some operational efficiencies at scale, dating apps don't exhibit the dramatic cost advantages of true scale economy businesses. 2. Network effects, present but complicated. Dating apps have same-side, social proof, and cross-side, opposite gender attraction, network effects, but these are local, regional, rather than global, and success, matching and leaving, erodes them. 3. Counter-positioning. This was Bumble's original power. Women Make the First Move was genuinely differentiated and hard for Tinder to copy without abandoning its brand positioning. However, Bumble's decision to relax this mechanic under Jones diluted this power. 4. Switching costs. Very low. Users can and do use multiple apps simultaneously. No data lock-in, no meaningful switching friction. 5. Brand. This remains Bumble's strongest power. The yellow brand, the empowerment positioning, the Whitney Wolfe Herd founder story. These create real differentiation, but brand is a depreciating asset that requires constant investment to maintain. 6. Cornered resource. None apparent. Bumble doesn't have exclusive access to any critical technology, talent, or data. 7. Process power not evident. Bumble's operational processes don't appear to confer meaningful competitive advantage. The bull case. 1. Founder, return, Whitney Wolfe. Herd built this company once from nothing. Her return as CEO brings back the visionary, brand-obsessed leadership that made Bumble successful in the first place. 2. Brand resilience. Despite the stock decline, the Bumble brand remains recognizable and differentiated. The women make the first move positioning, even if relaxed, creates a distinct identity. 3. AI opportunity. If AI can genuinely solve the swipe fatigue problem and create better matches faster, Bumble could see improved retention and monetization. 4. Valuation reset. At current prices, Bumble trades at roughly 0.5x trailing revenue. Cheap for a profitable, growing consumer tech business if the turnaround gains traction. 5. Restructuring. Complete. With 2 rounds of layoffs behind it, the cost structure is now aligned with a smaller, more focused business. The bear case? 1. Structural industry headwinds. Gen Z swipe fatigue is an industry-wide problem that no amount of product innovation may solve. If the cultural zeitgeist moves decisively toward offline dating, all apps suffer. 2. Competition from Hinge. Match Group's Hinge is specifically positioned for serious dating and growing rapidly among the exact demographic Bumble targets. 3. Brand dilution, the decision to let men message, first fundamentally altered Bumble's differentiation. Rebuilding brand positioning is far harder than maintaining it. 4. Management churn. 2. CEOs in 18 months, 2 rounds of 30% layoffs, departures of CFO, CMO, CBO, and CTO. This level of turnover creates operational chaos. 5. Litigation overhang. The securities class action lawsuit represents both financial risk and management distraction. 6. PE exit dynamics. Blackstone has been steadily selling shares. From 98 million at IPO down to 50+ million by 2024. When your largest shareholder is actively liquidating, it creates persistent selling pressure. Key performance indicators to watch. For investors following Bumble, 2 KPIs matter above all others. 1. Bumble app. Paying users. This metric captures both user growth and monetization success. The absolute number of paying users and the quarter-over-quarter trend will determine whether the turnaround is working. Currently, at approximately 2.5 to 2.8 million for the Bumble app specifically, this needs to inflect upward for any sustainable stock recovery. 2. Average revenue per paying user, ARPPU. This metric captures monetization efficiency. Total ARPPU decreased to $21.23 compared to $23.03. The declining ARPPU suggests pricing pressure and/or mix shift toward lower-tier subscriptions. Stabilization or improvement here would signal that the product changes are creating genuine value users will pay for.
Whitney Wolfe Herd has now attempted 2 founder redemption arcs in the same industry. The first, building Bumble from the ashes of her Tinder departure, was among the most successful in startup history. A woman who was told she couldn't be a co-founder because of her gender built a company that went public at a $7.6 billion valuation. The second redemption arc, returning as CEO to save Bumble from its 93% stock decline, is just beginning. The challenges are different this time. She's not building a new brand, she's trying to revive one that's been diluted. She's not competing against an incumbent with a clear weakness. She's fighting an industry-wide headwind of Gen Z dating fatigue. The odds are long. Dating apps may be structurally challenged as Gen Z seeks authenticity over algorithms. The competitive moat has narrowed. The brand has been weakened. The balance sheet carries significant debt against dwindling cash. But betting against Whitney Wolfe Herd has been a losing proposition before. The first time she was counted out, she built a $3 billion business. The second time, she took it public at $8 billion. In the end, Whitney Wolfe Herd's return to Bumble is more than a business decision. It's a narrative of leadership and vision, underscoring that in both love and business, sometimes you must return to the beginning to move forward. The story isn't over. It's just getting its second act. Material legal and regulatory overhangs. Securities class action lawsuit filed covering the period November 7, 2023 through August 7, 2024, alleging misleading statements about the Premium Plus subscription tier and app relaunch strategy. Illinois biometric privacy settlement, Howell v. Bumble, involving use of facial recognition photo verification technology. Ongoing regulatory scrutiny in EU markets regarding data privacy and App Store commission structures. Accounting considerations. $892.2 million impairment charge in 2024 suggests prior acquisitions. Fruits official, potentially goodwill from prior periods, were written down substantially. Company reports both GAAP losses and adjusted EBITDA. The gap between the two metrics, $700.5 million operating loss versus $304.1 million. Adjusted EBITDA reflects significant non-cash charges and stock compensation.
This podcast is brought to you by Emper.top, the stories of top companies. Disclaimer: this AI-generated content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.